This is KGW News at noon.
Not good enough. That's how U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg described the state of the I-5 bridge connecting Portland and Vancouver. Today, he's in Vancouver, taking a closer look at the plans for a new bridge. Thanks for joining us for the news at noon. I'm Drew Carney. The current bridge is more than 100 years old at this point, and replacing it has been a local topic of conversation for more than a decade now. Yesterday, KGW's David Mulco had a chance to sit down for a one-on-one interview with Secretary Buttigieg. One of the things they talked about was the bridge replacement. It's a project that just received over $600 million in federal funding back in December. So David asked if more funding was on the way.
Well, I'm not going to make any news about grant announcements besides the $600 million that we're celebrating this week. But what I'll say is funding this project has required funding from multiple sources. And it's really been the willingness of the state of Oregon and the state of Washington to step up and lead with their own funds, as well as come to us and match those to federal funds, that's making all of this possible. This falls into a category of projects that are so large and so complex that they really would not have been possible, just would not have gotten over the finish line until the president's infrastructure package passed.
We'll be there later today, as a matter of fact, as the Transportation Secretary takes a tour of the I-5 bridge, with full coverage coming up on KGW News at 4, 5, and 6. You can also watch the entire exclusive interview between David Mulco and Secretary Buttigieg on our website. They also talked at length about the airline industry, specifically focused on last month's door plug blowout on the Alaska Airlines flight that took off from Portland. You can check it out at KGW.com. All right, let's get to some other local headlines now this afternoon. Just about an hour ago, flight attendants started picketing outside the Portland airport. So to be clear here, this is not a strike. It's simply being called a picket. Thousands of flight attendants across the country are part of this. They're calling for better pay and better working conditions. Today's picket is not expected to impact any flight plans. We also have an update on a fatal pedestrian crash earlier this month in the Lentz neighborhood of southeast Portland. Police identified the victim as 71-year-old Thomas Amato. According to police, he was hit by a car on Southeast Foster Road just east of I-205. Amato, they say, was dead when officers arrived on the scene. The driver of the car did stay on the scene and cooperated with investigators. To the Oregon coast now, where a dead whale washed up on the beach yesterday. This happened on Sunset Beach in Warrenton, near Astoria. The exact time isn't clear, but it most likely happened early Monday morning. It was a fin whale. The only species that's larger are blue whales. Researchers started collecting samples from the whale and plan to perform a necropsy later today to figure out what caused its death. All right, from the coast, now we head over to the Weather Center. Rod Hill, we're talking about change in the weather here eventually this week, but I guess you want to focus on the right now.
Well, why wouldn't you, right? Why not? This is Cannon Beach. Let's go back to the coast. It has been a beautiful sunny day up and down the coast all day. There was never any fog. Cannon Beach Live, you can see, rightfully so, folks out enjoying themselves. It's 48 degrees. There's really no wind today to speak of once again. Timberline has been clear much of the morning, just starting to see some cumulus up over the summit. Kind of a cool live shot though. 29 is the temperature there. And here's downtown. We are breaking out of the morning fog as expected, and this will go on to be a mostly sunny afternoon with rising temps up into the 50s. Right now 46. I have us at 54. Now, Drew mentioned that we've got some weather coming our way, and boy do we. It's been a while since we've had a big snowmaker up over the Cascades, and a significant winter threat in the Columbia River Gorge as well. So I will tell you, winter storm watches are up tomorrow and Thursday for both the Gorge and Mount Hood. This is our Futurecast model. Tomorrow, just getting into the afternoon at 12:30. Notice the solid, steady rain. Coast, valley, snow picking up down to 3,000 feet. That's below the passes up in the Cascades. Now, early afternoon, see the green if you look carefully? That's rain along I-84, but you go into the evening tomorrow, that is potentially sticking snow over the interstate. So we'll get more into tomorrow and Thursday storm coming up in just a bit. For now, Drew, back to you.
Actually, Rob, we're going to have you do a full 7-day forecast, if that works, here in 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Also this afternoon, we're hearing from the local mother and the sister of a 12-year-old boy who was hit and killed by a car while riding his bike last weekend. It happened on a busy stretch of road in Hillsborough. KGW's Alma McCarty has more after speaking to the boy's family.
Saturday afternoon, 12-year-old Joseph Brunsson left his Hillsboro home on his bike.
He was on his way to play basketball. He never made it.
The preteen, a sixth grader at Lincoln Street Elementary, died on scene after a driver hit him on Southeast 10th Avenue and Gumleaf Lane. According to police, the crash happened around 4:10.
This is the part that I just can't handle in my mind. I can't handle that Joseph saw the car coming at him and the car didn't see him.
His mother, Sarah, still trying to process the tragedy.
And for even half a second, if he was crying out in pain and I wasn't there, that tears me up inside.
She says they hadn't heard from Joseph for a couple of hours, and he wasn't answering his phone.
And I have the family link on my phone, so I followed his ping. And I pulled out on the highway and I saw all the police tape and the lights, and it was just... And I looked down at the phone at the address and I was like, that's Starbucks. I drove as close as I could to the police tape, but I ran right into the police tape and his bike was laying there.
A memorial grows at the site of the crash as his loved ones,
my little brother,
like Sister Madison, remember the good times they shared.
My favorite picture was the one taken next to Lewis and Clark, the end of the Oregon Trail, and I had stolen his hat, and he wasn't going to take it back from me until I made him mad later that day.
Everyone that met him just fell in love with him. He was such a character. We like to laugh and joke that he had such a mouthpiece on him, like he could banter back and forth, and everyone really enjoyed that about Joe.
Sarah hopes officials might consider safety improvements to this specific area, questioning why and how this happened to her son.
Why didn't you see him? My son never gets to come home again. It still doesn't feel real.
That was Alma McCarty reporting for us here this afternoon. Hillsboro police, by the way, say the driver did stay at the scene, cooperated with investigators, and so far is not being charged. Family and friends have set up a GoFundMe to help cover the unexpected funeral cost. You can find a link to that fundraiser in the online version of this story at KGW.com. The Port of Hood River recently landed a $200 million federal grant to help replace the Hood River Bridge. This news did lead to some questions, though, from our viewers. A viewer named Steve asked, why is the current Hood River Bridge one of just a couple in the state that charges a toll? And if a bridge is continually tolled, does that mean it's not state-owned? So we did some digging on this. Our sources were the Port of Hood River, Port of Cascade Locks, ODOT, and Multnomah County. We can verify that, yes, in the state of Oregon, all bridges that charge permanent tolls are not state-owned. So that means money from the state's gas tax does not go towards these bridges, and tolls are required to cover maintenance costs. Here's Kevin Greenwood with the Port of Hood River explaining how the toll there started.
So those tolls in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, in part, aside from taking care of the current bridge, actually went into investing in economic development in Hood River and in the on the fabulously popular waterfront here in Hood River.
The new bridge in Hood River is getting built with the help of federal dollars, but there will still be tolls to cover all future maintenance. Special election day for voters in Washington, so what's on your ballot depends on where you live. The top issues in Clark County include levies for the Battleground, Camas, and Woodland school districts. In all three of those districts, voters are being asked to fund technology, health, and safety improvements. In order to count, ballots must be postmarked by today or dropped off at an approved ballot site by 8 o'clock tonight. Final results should be out no later than a week from this Friday. All right, check this out. Earlier this morning, the world's smallest park got a brand new tree. Portland Parks and Rec planted the dwarf Alberta spruce at Mill Ends Park in downtown Portland and then surrounded it with Irish moss. The park's previous tree went missing a couple of weeks ago during the ice storm. This park, if you're not familiar, again, the world's smallest, sits there along Nadeau Parkway. It's only 452 square inches total.